Hello everyone, welcome here tonight. My name is Frederick Renal. I'm one of the two co-founders of Agile Search. Agile Search is a company that you could say is a recruitment company. We do executive search, in-house recruitment, and we also help and advise our clients around employer branding. What we like to do also is we like to provide a maximum amount of value for both the companies but also the candidates that we work with, mostly developers, architects, development managers and so forth. And one way for us to do this is by arranging these tech events around different topics. Tonight we're going to talk about AI and machine learning. We've got some very interesting speakers lined up from some very interesting companies. The first speaker is going to be Tuva Palm from Nordnet. Second, we have Hjalmar Nilsson, who's going to talk and tell us what they do at Wati. And the third one is Carol Usher from Spotinst, who's going to tell us also about how they've been using AI and machine learning to develop new innovative services around the cloud. So without further ado, I'm going to call up Tuva to hold the first presentation of tonight. So please give her a warm round of applause.
Thank you. Is this on? Yes? Yeah. Awesome. Nice to be here to talk about AI. I have like 20 minutes to talk about this subject, which requires a PhD degree to understand fully, but I'll do it in a high level and try to do my best. But please interrupt if you have any questions. So we will discuss. We have two versions of, we have two AI strategies today. One is in-house and one is a partnership we have. So, I am the CTO and CPO at Nordnet Bank. And within banking and financial service, AI has been a welcome technology. Due to solving a few problems, which is more or less well known. One pretty interesting fact is that although banks often claims to have high trust in their customers, when you look into the data, it shows that customers actually have pretty low trust in banks. And it's not that customers in general don't trust the bank to transfer the money between two different banks or accounts. It's the advice they get usually. So in Sweden, 16% of the population seeks for financial advice every year. That's not so many people. Of those 16%, 45%, so what could that be, like 7-8%, are actually satisfied with the advice they get from their bank. And I suspect, but I don't have any data or proof on this, but I suspect that these customers are private banking customers. Because I've tried this twice, and it was 2 hours of my life that I will never get back. I'm not going to say which bank. But another very interesting fact is that 60% of customers actually don't really have the know-how to do a proper investment and to manage their private finances correctly. This is actually, at Nordnet we claim that managing or having control of your private finances and your capital, that is what actually one of the most important things of your life. That will, if you talk about pension for example, it will make a complete difference on how your last years in life will be. So it's a very important subject. And introducing different kind of Roboadvice using AI could of course, of course it's open all the time. You can actually, and this is a very, very important point, instead of me meeting this super not so smart financial advisor at the bank, we can actually secure that we provide, that we share the best advice available to a larger amount of people at a very low cost, because it scales in another way. But of course there are different cases where we need machines, and different cases where humans actually comes in. The difference is, of course, and just that said, I mean, the systems we have today, the machine learning and AI systems that we have today, they actually, if you look at them feature-wise, they have the functionality to, if we train them, they could be this cool kind of bot that we see in sci-fi movies. But if you're trying a chatbot, for example, you realize that it's a lot of training of these algorithms before we can actually see wonders being made here. Yes. Where AI comes to play for financial services, basically, as I said, we have the power suddenly to scale up advice and services that traditionally only was available for a few at a much lower cost, obviously. We can also use machine learning on large amounts of data to make better advice. If you go in and if you go back to this slide, the calculation power in a machine is always much higher than the calculation power of a human being when it's trained. I mean, we can have much more brain power from a robot than from a person moving forward. And machine learning can, of course, analyzing both your data, your transaction data to see changes in your life, could combine it with data on what's happening on the market, can scan different reports from companies to find patterns and see usually when this CEO leaves the company, it's a good thing or whatever. And you can also have these cognitive systems to communicate in a human-like way with the customer. Basically, more or less the chatbot or something like that. And we have just recently launched, we have two products within this area that we are currently, one we have launched and the other one we are just about to launch. The first one is the embryo of a Roboadvice service. It's a very simple chatbot. It's basically it asks you a bunch of questions, 12 questions, and to identify your savings strategy. Basically, what risk level are you at? What risk are you willing to take? And that is usually, this is really pretty tricky to find out actually, because you can claim to be very risk, I like taking risks, and then if you see your portfolio go down a few percent, you're like, oh, stop, this was not what I meant with risks. So that is pretty tricky to identify. But also, we need to know how much capital do you have, for how long time do you want to save within this account, and so forth. And based on that, we're putting up a savings strategy, and then have a robot do the trading for you, buy and sell for you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
So if I'm more stupid than normal,
Yes.
and I ask for advice from this robot that's clearly is going against my best interest, clearly going against that, would the robot say, oh, hang on a minute here, you should do this?
Yes. So there's actually rules from Finansinspektionen. So we need to be really sure. That's why we ask 12 questions and not 3 questions. Because if you say, I want to take a high risk, and we then ask, or would you accept the capital or your investment to go down by this percentage, and you say no, then we can say that you might have another risk capital. And then we also look into how much money do you make, can you really, can you afford this kind of saving? If you put up that you want to save like 95% of your salary, then we say stop. So it's in a few cases, and a bunch of people have tried it out, but if in a few combinations, we actually advise you not to save. So we try our best there. But of course, I mean, we want to make that smarter. So we want to have, if circumstances in your life change, we want to be able to update the savings portfolio. We're not there yet, but this is the first version. So basically, with AI, usually, I mean, it contains of several parts, right? I used to divide it into 3 parts. You have the expert systems. It's like the systems that play chess or have deep knowledge about something, and where RoboSave is that kind of expert in savings. And then we have machine learning, different kind of machine learning systems that analyze large amount of data. And in our case, it could, for example, be used in churn, or why do customers act in various ways, basically better understand the customer and do better recommendations and so forth. And then the third part is cognitive systems, and actually analyzing speech and be able to talk or chat with you. When we say that RoboSave has a chat, it's a bit it's a very simple chat. So it's not the cognitive system. This is more of an expert system. This is a small movie on that. Didn't work. We can go over to. So for we are using actually AI. I'm only presenting two parts of our strategy, AI strategy here. We are of course using machine learning to understand our customers in various ways. For example, if you use our product Sharewheel, anyone uses Sharewheel here? A very few. Everyone doesn't maybe know what it is. It's basically Facebook for traders or for investors. So you share your portfolio with other traders, and you can see, you can talk about. Basically, it's a social network for traders. You should really try it out. And in there, we have a lot of machine learning, basically. Doing recommendations, people who are following these users usually follow these and so forth. Then we have the first version of the expert, which is RoboSave, and then we are also about to launch a cognitive system as well. Because we realized when we were starting to do this chat in RoboSave, we realized that if we were about to build a chatbot that wouldn't be complete nonsense to chat with, then we needed to fully understand intent of the language, and we realized that it wasn't really doing an FAQ kind of thing. We really needed to understand language, and that was a science by itself. So we partnered up with, there are several companies doing this, and we partnered up with one of them, one of the bigger one, called IPsoft. They have this product called Amelia, which we are using to support our customers on the onboarding. So when you become a new customer at a bank, we have to ask you a couple of questions, and it's usually very cumbersome, and this chatbot will support you through that way. It will be launched very soon. Let's see. It's a slide that didn't really work, but anyway, just to conclude, basically succeeding with machine learning requires a lot of work. So as I mentioned earlier, you know that the basics, the foundation to build these sci-fi-like things are already here, but what we need to do is to start train the algorithm and understand which use cases this makes sense. The best ways is to start with a very small problem and then increase it. over time. And as it's exponential, we will see over the next few years, a lot of companies will start maybe chatbots, etc., and we will see it will feel like it's a lot of talk about this AI stuff, but nothing really happens. But within a few years, it will take off, and a lot of exciting things will be happening. So that was the basic of what I was going to present today. Any questions? Yes.
How do you differentiate yourself from the other robo-advisors on the market?
Yes, there are several other robo-advisors on market. Some of them are kind of similar and some of them are not. There are a bunch of robo-advisors that actually more is fund selectors, that is not doing the actual rebalancing for you. So even if you have some kind of robo-advice thing selecting these are the things you should invest in, if they don't do the rebalancing, that is if they don't buy and sell, it's not that much use. Of course it is, And then there's a few products like Omni, which we are working with, which helps you find, if you have a certain kind of funds, they help you find the same funds but for a much cheaper price. So to see which holdings are in the fund and compare them with others. And that is basically a bit different product. Avanza Auto is more of the selecting funds product, or it is a selecting fund product. Lysa is a bit similar to ours, not really. They have other kind of instruments, which makes it a bit cumbersome if you're not. They have another kind of ETFs, which make you, if you need to have a large amount of capital to have the portfolio behaving like the saving strategy is set, but otherwise pretty comparable. No of the big banks have something that is in this area yet, but I know that they're working on it. Any other question? Or was that an answer? Yeah? Yes?
Do you use any kind of dynamics within, if you change the portfolio?
We call it rebalancing. Yes, yes, and that's the key of it. Otherwise, it would be more of a kind of we call it fund selector, but more of an investment selector. If you don't do the rebalancing stuff, it's not so. I mean, that's the core of it. To make sure that you can do one click and then you can just leave it and it actually performs, not only waits. Yes?
It's a follow-up question, maybe I didn't understand. But rebalancing, isn't that to some extent selecting also? Isn't that selecting, we're going to go for this fund, not that one, for this portion of your whole portfolio? No?
I didn't really understand the question.
Sorry, maybe I don't understand the difference between rebalancing and fund selection properly.
Do you understand that, Ray?
I think he's saying that rebalancing is doing a fund selector over and over again. What's the difference?
Yeah, kind of.
I think that's what he's saying.
So fund selection, maybe you go in and you say, we're going to choose this sort of
Aha!
investment.
Okay, now I think I understand what you asked. So correct me if I'm wrong. You mean that for either you have a portfolio and you get new cash in every month.
Sure.
Yeah, and either you change the portfolio by buying new stuff that is in other areas, or you sell and buy things.
Yeah, that could be it. Or if I say that I have 50% wood in my portfolio and 50% gold.
And suddenly something
in the
happens
work,
with the
and
gold.
it's like,
So it's
exactly.
it's
90% of it is now gold.
yes.
Then
so
you need to rebalance it.
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah. Yes. So both rebalancing and so yes. If for example, let's say that wood just loses its value completely, and we need to sell it, and then we need to adjust the portfolio based on that.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's some more difference between fund selection and rebalancing. It sounds to me a bit similar, but maybe not.
Ray, can you help me out here? I don't understand the question.
So I think
Stupid.
so for fund selection. Sorry,
Yeah.
This is Ray Yee for my team. He's one of the.
So for fund selection, it could be you go in and say, I want Fund A. And Fund A owns a set of specific holdings. But that doesn't so as things move, you'll continue to buy the same things in the same percentages. But in RoboSave, what happens is as you deposit more cash or individual ETFs that are held underneath change in value, it will sell existing holdings to help you stay in line with your target portfolio. So I think all the portfolios in RoboSave are tied to risk ranges. So based on your time horizon, your knowledge and experience, and so risk tolerance, time horizon, sorry, I had a glass of water. Knowledge and experience, risk tolerance, and time horizon. So those three things allocate you to a certain asset class allocation. Like you should only have a certain percentage of different things. So as those fall out, the money that you deposit in and your existing holdings will generate orders on what it needs to sell and buy to keep you at the right risk level. So that's what. Automatically. No, it's manual.
Yeah.
So there's the algorithm that our team built looks at the performance of your account and figures out what changes it needs to make to keep you aligned with that.
Yes, one last question.
Hi,
I see that we ran out
I'm
of time.
just regarding like artificial intelligence. Are you working with a cloud solution for this? So you are using, for example, like TensorFlow or Azure machine learning or anything like that, or is it more like you're using some things that you have developed on your own?
So for this RoboSave product, that is what we call an expert system. So it's not based on any external components for this use case. For the other, we have parts from IPsoft, which is similar to, some of them are similar to Azure's product. So we are using different modules. But I think that, building up you will need to have components from a third party.
Yeah. Because in the end of the day, to have a competitive advantage, you will need to have the best software, right?
Yeah.
Like from a global perspective.
Yeah. And that was just what we realized when we were starting off with this chat, and it's actually in RoboSave. We say that it's a chat, but it's actually, you have different options, because otherwise people were writing all sorts of things. Yeah, and it's a small thing, but to have this component, this cognitive component, which is based on doing the cognitive system and learning the language, and then we can be best at savings and savings. And so we need to secure that we have all the parts needed. But we can't be expert at everything, because then we are competing with everything and we will lose. Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, Tuva, for sharing with us. Unfortunately, Tuva is not going to be able to stay with us afterwards, but there's a couple of our colleagues here. They have a stand outside, so if you have further questions, feel free to approach them.
Yeah, we have Ray and then Marie, because we're hiring.
Oh,
so if
yeah.
you want to work with this stuff, I don't see her anymore, but she's somewhere. There she is.